Hey, Barbie. Can I come to your house tonight?
Sure. I don't have anything big planned, just a giant blowout party with all the Barbies and planned choreography and a bespoke song. You should stop by.
So cool.
You can find me under the lights, diamonds under my eyes.
This is the best day ever.
It is the best day ever. So is yesterday, and so is tomorrow, and every day from now until forever. Do you guys ever think about dying?
Da 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 da! You sound insane. You realize that? Yeah. The whole world gone crazy. Seriously? Yeah. It's showtime.
Greta gang, fries up. It's time to talk Barbie. If you haven't listened to our Barbenheimer episode, we talked about the crazy weekend that it was. What a weekend it was. So check out that episode if you haven't already. We're here to dig into Barbie, get some spoiler talk, and review this movie. I'm Kent, hosting, guiding you. We're joined by co-host Brian and friend of the show, again, Miss Claudia Castillo. What's up, Claudia?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
Very excited for this. Brian, got to get your Barbie takes. I've been waiting all weekend for Brian's hot takes on Barbie.
Not a big fan of women in general, as you know. So this was a tough one for me. No, Greta's. I feel like we're the official male podcast of Greta Gerwig. Happy to have been early adopters. Been looking forward to this greatly. I know I've told this story on the air before, but we get new listeners every single day. So why not do it again? We loved Lady Bird, all of us, big fans. Thought, man, Greta, she's going to do big things. We're pumped for this. And then when it was announced that Little Women was her next movie, I was bummed. She's like, really? I'm not that Little Women is like a bad property, or that it doesn't deserve to be made, or that women shouldn't be on film, which is something that Kent says a lot, but not me.
You told me, you texted me and said if it was Little Men, I'd be in.
Yeah. We should throw Richard under the bus since he's not here. Richard was just like, very there's
anti.
no reason for there
the
to
whole
be...
the whole concept, Richard.
The entire idea of a movie that features 5 women. Are you 5? That was not mine, to be clear. That was Richard's opinion.
Richard's actually not here in protest because I'm here.
I know. We can say whatever we want about him. And he'll never listen either, so it doesn't matter. But no, like I was bummed when it was announced that that's what she was going to do, because it just felt like, really, okay, like, you're the artist, you do what you want, but like I feel like, man, after Lady Bird, I was really excited about what was going to come next, and then we're gonna kind of redo Little Women, okay, and then I'm sitting in Little Women, and Richard had already seen it, right? About 30 minutes into the movie, I texted him and I was like, am I watching the best movie of the year? And he was like, yeah, it is. And by the way, 2019 was a banger year for movies. So that's really high praise. And I'm at the point that is when I reached the point where I was like, whatever she's going to do, I'm in. It doesn't matter. I'm never going to question again or be, a little bummed out. This is what she wants to spend her time on. So when we get the news that she's doing Barbie, it's like an immediate, not only am I excited about Greta and whatever she wants to do, it's also the holy cow. Like, I just saw what she did with Little Women. What is she going to do with Barbie? And it's, by the way, it's the same with Chronicles of Narnia, which she's apparently going to do for Netflix too. It's just like, okay, yeah, absolutely. Like I'm in on that after seeing Barbie. Her voice. Yeah. I love her vision. I'm so excited about whatever she wants to do. This was an absolute blast. And I think we talked a little bit in that little kind of preview up to the Barbenheimer episode. This has major legs moving forward, and it's just cool that people are excited about this. And it's been kind of cool too, also, like, to see how her career has built through these 3 movies, from going from Lady Bird, which made about $80 million, to Little Women, which was, I think, kind of a surprise hit at $200+ million worldwide, and then this movie that is gonna top out at, I don't know, $700 million, something like that. I mean, this is so cool, man. And it's great time at the movies.
Claudia, were you a Greta fan before this?
Oh, absolutely. I think for all the reasons that you guys have already talked about, not only in this episode, but in previous episodes. I think she's amazing. And I think she just brings a unique voice to movies, and, you know, female directors in general. I don't think there's enough of them that have a voice that are able to have
Right.
carte blanche, which she's kind of earned at this point. And I think I went in going to see Barbie really not knowing anything about it. Like, they were keeping everything pretty hush hush. And I know we're going to get into it, but, obviously we're familiar with what the doll is. And that's pretty much all I needed because I knew that her name was attached to it. And then Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie.
Right.
Right.
That's
yeah, totally.
It's an interesting thing because we saw Lady Bird, we reviewed it on the show, and I think all of us were like, there was just something about her language of cinema, her understanding of that from immediately. It's not like she had to build up to this. It's so clear she had the talent very early on. But when the announcement was made that she was doing Barbie, I was so nervous. Just because I know how studios are with IP that's this valuable. And they protect it. They want to maximize money. They don't like to take risks. And the history with Mattel and the Barbie brand in movies with Toy Story is not great. Like, they were so protective of Barbie's use in the movie, how Barbie was portrayed in the movie, whether that was reflective of their value, all that kind of stuff. It seems like the leadership of Mattel has grown up. So when I saw her attached, I was like, okay, this might be, she has passion for Barbie, but I expected this to be a standard studio movie, right? In terms of, it's going to be about a Barbie doll, and that's the story. The fact that they let her do this blows my mind. This script seems like a spec script or something, right? Does the fact that this had studio cooperation behind it is unbelievable. Like, they let her run with disparaging Barbie, the brand, in a good way, for a reason in the movie, right? And calling out the studio for decisions that they made. It was just a thing when Ryan Gosling said, when he first read the script, he thought, this is one of the best scripts I've ever read, but there's no way they'll ever make this movie. And the fact that they did invest in the creative instead of the IP, right? If this movie was written by almost honestly any other person, pair of people, Noah and Greta, of course, together wrote this, it would be so different. It would have bowed to the studio. They could have hired Louis Leterrier to do, any no-name director or director with a name to kind of just make sure that this thing comes out. It's going to make $100 million just because it's Barbie and everyone's going to take their kid. That kind of thing could have been so easy for the studio to do and say, let's just cash that check. The fact that they let Greta do this is truly amazing. And without getting spoilery, like the whole satire of it all, I mean, the commentary. I was in a theater and there were a lot of families with kids. I don't know if you guys had the same experience or what the audience was like, but it seemed like a good amount of the audience didn't know what this was until they got in there. And once they realized what it was, you could tell their tone was like, okay, I'm kind of liking this, but this is not what I expected. And that's just an amazing aspect of this, is that they took a huge risk and it paid off huge, right? I said before this, I think on the podcast, Brian, this movie's either going to be incredible or horrible. There's no in between, I think, with Barbie. I didn't think it was going to be like, yeah, well, it's pretty good. It's okay. I just thought this is going to be either be 20% on Rotten Tomatoes, either the tone doesn't land or the tone lands. And when we saw those reviews coming out, that it was just, critics like the sub over 90%, I was like, okay, we know that this worked. And I just can't believe that we actually got this movie.
Yeah, it's as always, I worry what the lesson learned by Hollywood is going to be, because I always feel like they're going to get it wrong, or like partially wrong at least. But yes, I totally agree with you. I think the IP is important. Claudia, you mentioned that a little bit in the Barbenheimer episode. This is a 60-plus-year-old IP, the biggest brand in the game, in its industry for a long stretch at least. but I think the main deal is that they they hired somebody who is an incredible writer director, an incredible talent, and then left her alone. Like, let her do what she's hired to do, which is kind of like a wow, who would have ever thought that would work kind of thing, you know? It's nice to we hear so many stories about studio interference, and we talk a lot about how sometimes, I know we're supposed to be on the side of the artist all the time, but sometimes some of the artists that we see making movies seem to be shocked that the people giving them $80 or $100 million want to get a return on that $80 or $100 million. This is like, I think, a great example of just like, you did pick a good project, obviously, and then you hired somebody who has a real vision and is an incredible talent, and then you let them do their work. And then also in part of that, which I can't believe I can, because this speaks to how much we love Greta and how much respect we have for her. We're not really even yet talking about Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling, you know? So those things help as well. It's just a really incredibly well put together movie. And you're right, Kent, like there was a part of me as I'm watching this is like, gosh, I kind of can't believe that they're just like letting her do this. Or
when they had the scene of all the Mattel's CEOs and they were all dudes, and Farrell's like, yeah, we had a woman work here at some point, you know, like that was like, wow, they're really going there with this.
Yeah. Listen, I have been that person in that room many times where like you'll speak up. There's a scene in the movie, and I don't remember if it's the same one, but where she pitches an idea and they're like, no, that's stupid. And then the other guys agree, the other execs, and they're like, oh, okay,
he's like,
yeah,
it says it'll make money. Okay, yeah, let's do that. Yeah, that was the same scene. God, that was great.
I also, you know, to piggyback off of what you, Kept, and Brian were saying, you know, I obviously Greta deserves all of the accolades and then some, but I also don't want to discount Margot Robbie, because she was the one who had been eyeing this project and the rights to Barbie, if and when it was ever going to become a movie. And I think she purposefully sought out Greta Gerwig. So
is that true?
So I think, I was listening to the Daily from the New York Times, and so, you know, I think aside from Babylon,
Greta Gerwig,
like, Margot,
her new movie Barbie,
Margot Robbie
featuring Margot Robbie,
great track records, except for maybe Babylon as of late. I mean, so I think she was great in that.
That wasn't on her. Yeah. She picks good projects. That's interesting. She was so great in this role. I think I've said on the show, like, I oddly think that Harley Quinn role of hers is so great and is one of the more iconic characters that has been created. I don't know, Lady Gaga is probably going to try to outdo it here with her version, but she's amazing. I mean, she can do it all. The Tarantino movies, right? She can do the I, Tanya's, the kind of satirical comedies. She can do the musicals with Damien Chazelle. I mean, what a versatile actress. And her portrayal of Barbie was so spot on, given the fact that the rigidity of her performance, purposeful, I loved. And I thought the line from, I guess it was Helen Mirren doing the narration of her being the stereotypical Barbie and them saying, note to filmmakers, right? If you cast Margot Robbie, this is not a great point.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought everything about this movie was just so smart, but like equally silly.
Yeah.
And, you know, had a message, but like wasn't overtly political, and like had musical nods. And it was literally, there was something for everybody in this movie. And so I'm really curious just to hear what you guys enjoyed most about this, knowing that you guys probably aren't the target audience, but just as lovers of film, you know, I'm curious as to see like what it was about this movie, not the director or the production, but like what was it about this movie that you actually enjoyed?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I'm a nerd when it comes to directing and how these things were made. I was absolutely mind blown at the production design, the Barbie land itself. I've never seen anything like that on film before. I mean, Greta says, you know, heavily inspired by The Wizard of Oz and the sets of the Emerald City being this fake painting, right? And the Yellow Brick Road, Munchkin Land, all that stuff being a set. And the word she used, which I loved in kind of the interview process, was there was something unapologetically artificial about that she liked. And she brought that here. Like, it's supposed to look fake and tactile. These sunsets are supposed to look dumb. So I just loved the production design on the Barbie dream house. Every little detail of that was so thought out. Having their clothes in the Barbie thing, having the shower not have any water, like all the little nuances of that were fantastic. And it was just such a fun place to be. It felt like a Truman Show world, this fantasy land, which, you know, you truly feel like you're in somewhere different rather than in, you know, a studio setting. It was such a fantastical place that I loved. And so that was what, for me, was that, like, the way it opened with that. I mean, the 2001 Space Odyssey opening, I was like, wow, no, not a lot of people are going to get this, but I'm all in from the start with the monolith.
I was surprised it did that. I thought that was going to be one of those things that was just for the trailer, not for the actual movie itself. And so, but I thought it was fun. It was a blast. It was really.
Can I also say that I appreciated that was like the entirety of the backstory? Like, we don't need a backstory.
Yes.
Like, you know,
yes,
we don't
100%.
need to have a backstory for everything all the time. And they were just like, oh, you know, girls got tired of playing with baby dolls. So there was a void and now they're playing with real dolls.
Right. Because I totally with you, Claudia. I love when a studio director, whatever, when they're just like, hey, what if we didn't treat the audience like complete idiots and just assume that they know what a Barbie is, you know, and how this all, like, we need 1 minute of setup on this, not 20 minutes. And that was great. It was a smart choice.
So the beginning, starting with that, and then the whole first sequence in Barbie Land, the dance sequence was unbelievable. Basically, up until they go into the real world, I was like, this is one of the best things I've ever seen, you know? And then it sort of fell off for me. Once they go to the real world, it's still good, but I just craved, I was like, okay, I was just hoping they would get back to Barbie Land, which is Ken Land when they come back, which is a great,
Kingdom, yeah. I was a little nervous that we were gonna linger in the real world for too long, because I did think that part of what made the movie so good was the world in which it was taking place, you know. And I thought she pretty much thread that needle. It was, or noodle if you prefer. But I think it stayed in the real world just long enough, and then got us back to where the movie, I think, really excels, especially. Like, you're in that real world, you get a taste of it. The interactions between Robbie and Gosling in the real world are hilarious and great stuff. And then you obviously you get the introduction of the human characters and whatnot. But the quicker you can get back to Barbie Land and or the Kingdom, I think the better. And she did that very well.
The fact that there was this huge question for Greta going into this, like, are you going to address the fact that the Barbies don't have parts? You know, like, she's like, yeah, we're going to do it. And the way they did it in the movie where Margot just flat out says it is like, okay, there it is for you. And I just love the straightforwardness of that and not trying to beat around the bush, as it were. But
I thought it was so great. Everything was just done so, like, there was a nod to every single detail that I remember about playing with Barbies growing up.
The giant dog crapping the plastic things made me laugh so hard.
Toy.
Yes, it made me laugh so hard because I remember that. I mean, Weird Barbie being played by Kate McKinnon sounds like a Mad About Movies bit. Like, we could have not have made up, okay, guess who plays Weird Barbie? Or Kate McKinnon's in the movie, but guess what her character is called? I guess it's probably the Weird Barbie, right? Somebody's acting real weird. Yep, she nailed that. That's best Kate McKinnon performance on screen, Brian?
But that was definitely something that, like, girls did. I remember cutting my Barbie's hair. Like, all of those small details, I was just like, wow, I really appreciate, and it just took me back to a time, like, I didn't remember some of these things, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I remember this. I remember playing with my Barbie. I remember cutting my Barbie's hair. I remember my younger cousin drawing on her face and me getting mad about it. It was just hysterical and just so great.
Yes, that felt very real and organic to like and adds to the world building that you're doing here in a really not just organic but like a really sweet way that makes sense. And I'm sure for Claudia and for anyone else who did play with Barbies growing up, that it was there was like an audible awe in my theater when Kate McKinnon explained like how she became Weird Barbie. Essentially, there was like yeah, I get that, and that was cool. I thought that was a really sweet touch, and
she's always in the
like a little bit of
splits.
fan service
so
without at not the expense of the movie, which is great. That's what we want from fan servicey kind of things like that.
Yeah, and I think the way that Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, when they wrote this, straddled the line of like nostalgia without it seemingly seem like a Mattel commercial. To your point, you guys were talking about that. I mean, I just thought it was beautifully done. I can't imagine any other writers or filmmaker that would have been able to do that the way that they did.
Right, to straddle that line so well between making fun of something but also making a great point is so tough. I mean, to have like a comedy punchline that also resonates as like almost like a parable, like a life lesson is not easy to do. And there was multiple instances of that throughout the movie. I thought the flat feet thing with Barbie, not only was it a great visual gag for the trailer, right, with her feet coming out of the shoes and staying upright, but the way they made that play into the story, that when her feet went flat, that's when everything changed and she goes into the real world. I loved that they brought that into the story, like flat feet. It was a great bit. And the fact, Ken sneaks away with her because he wants to be with her. I thought it was hilarious that he loved the real world and she hated it. I mean, that was so spot on.
Yeah. Well, and his reasoning for it, man.
Yeah.
Amazing. Like
just guys being dudes, man.
Dudes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just listening to some Matchbox 20,
Oh my gosh.
in my Mojo Dojo Casa house.
Yeah.
I have been dying to say Mojo Dojo Casa House to someone that would get it. So I'm so happy you brought that up.
Yeah. I said to my wife as we left the theater, I was like, like, it's going to be, she's like, what did you think? And I was like, well, I loved it. Number one. And number two, we're going to have to work really hard to not spend the whole review about a movie called Barbie, written and directed by Greta Gerwig, starring Margot Robbie, and not spend the whole review talking about Ryan Gosling, because he's so freaking good. He's so good in this and so funny. And I think for some people this was a revelation. I would say for those people, they've not been paying attention to the guys for the last couple of decades, but we can forgive that and understand where you're coming from. Margot Robbie is perfect for her role. She is incredible. Obviously the entire package. She's incredible in this role. Gosling is just as good, if not better, I think. And I mean that as a credit to both of them and not an insult to one, because he was killing me through the course of this. It was Robbie doing a great job as the straight man, and his little his facial expressions, his just off center camera movements with his little his expressions and his
talking about how his job is beach.
Yeah, that killed me. Beach.
So good, man.
Not a lifeguard.
Yes.
What if there's beach?
We're going to beach off. I thought that was a
Oh my God.
great bit for the adults too.
File this
So
under
good.
your hot takes. And if I never come on this podcast again, let me just live with myself and say that I think Ryan Gosling could get a supporting nod for this role.
Oh, he will.
I think he's a lock for.
I think he's a lock for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if Margot got a nomination out of this too. I think she's
yeah.
that good. The
Absolutely.
nuance of her performance is not lost on me. I mean, it might be lost on some of the viewers, but like that's not an easy thing to do, to play a fantasy character in the fish out of water thing is tough. I thought the scene with her going to the high school was one of the best scenes in the movie, with the girls just saying, basically just chewing her out.
She says, I don't own any railroads. Oh my gosh, that killed me.
Say what you want about fascism, Brian, but at least they had an ethos, right? Yeah, you're destroying women's self-worth. Like that whole scene came together really well.
Yeah. And
the come my lady bit was
oh my gosh.
So the perfect song for that for the guys in the room.
Yeah, I don't know if Mark Ronson was also the music producer and had a hand in picking the songs, but that was spot on, like you said, Kent. Exactly
the
song
campfire
they should've
sequence with Matchbox 20. I mean, all-time movie scene right there.
How many movies have we seen about guys serenading girls with their guitars? And just it was so comical. And the
when
fact
he
that
starts singing it, yeah, it's like, I said I don't know. You think it's this like real sentimental love song, and it's like, wait, is this Push?
I sent it to Kent and Richard, Claudia. I don't know if you saw this, but Matchbox 20 had a concert this weekend, and they dedicated that song to Gosling.
That's
on stage,
fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I need to
That's
look
pretty
that up.
American treasure of Rob Thomas
is pretty great.
to allow this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen,
whatever
I
your
mean,
stance is
Matchbox
on the
20
band, whatever, but like, yeah, I
Yeah.
think Rob Thomas has some
They
like, some
ruled
stats,
1997. I mean, say what you will about them now.
And he said he allowed it because they weren't making fun of the song.
Yeah.
Like the song is an integral part of, okay, yeah, guys were really into this, but it's probably not a great thing that they were into this looking back. And even Rob Thomas being able to admit that is pretty awesome.
Well,
like when you actually listen to the lyrics, it's
we
not
can
great.
all grow and change, you guys.
Right, totally. And I think that that's a common theme within this movie is, and speaks to the genius of Greta and Noah in the writing of it. It's not an easy task to write something as funny as this is, because this is a genuine comedy, and we don't get very many comedies in theaters anymore. It seems like it's like, well, will be on Netflix, and there's no way we can release a comedy in theaters. This is a genuine comedy that is genuinely funny. It's hard to do that, especially when you're kind of poking fun at a lot of different sources and people, but not to ever really make anybody, I think, the butt of the joke. Like it's all, we're gonna like kind of lightly, we're gonna make some little jokes here, we're gonna little poking here, we're gonna jab at you here and there, but nothing is like mean spirited, nothing is an aggressive joke. And I think that makes I think that just makes the movie much better. I think this could have been much more, it could have been a little heavier on its messaging for sure, and it could have been, the positive message could have come at the expense of someone else, and instead it really kind of comes out as like just a positive experience all around. Like you have America Ferrera's monologue is great when she's talking about how hard it is to be a woman and the standards that are set.
Wait, Brian, I'm actually glad you brought that up. So whenever you finish, I do.
No, sure. But I think one of the takeaways that I have from it, because it's a great monologue and that's not the only part of the movie that comments on that. Obviously that's a theme throughout, but there's nothing there. It's hard to be a woman does not come at the expense of like how easy it is to be a man. Does that make sense? Like it's not, you're not hammering that home, which made the outcry, quote unquote, by like the Ben Shapiro's of the world, like really ridiculous, even more ridiculous. Like you could have expected those things, obviously, just because,
who would have thought a Barbie movie was going to be pro women, right? I mean, who could have seen that coming?
That's a better way to put it. It's like it's very pro, but I don't think it's anti on anything.
No, they gave
anything. And so
Ken a personality. We knew nothing about him. That's why those movies were the posters were like, he's just Ken. We knew nothing about Ken, and now we understand Ken.
And it's very pro. Like in the end, too. It really gets to a place where it's very bros supporting bros, which is like it's like, hey. Healthy masculinity. Wow, what this is crazy. So anyway, it made the inevitable outcry by that group really look stupid and ridiculous. Which is good. I think we're all better when that group looks stupid.
You know what is funny about that too is like the people that were really offended or upset by this, it's like, you know that they were talking about you, right? Like this movie's about you. That's why you're so upset. Is what
Right.
Not only did this movie add dimension to a Ken character in which we was kind of a throwaway in the doll world, but I think the theme on that, and to your point about bros supporting bros, it was also Barbie and the Barbies giving the Kens the empowerment to explore themselves at the end and then leave them to it. Not just the idea of what they thought they were supposed to subscribe to and the patriarchy, and then realizing they have no idea what the patriarchy means.
Right.
So I think it was just hey, we support you. We just want you to support us as well. And then, Brian, like you said, the America Ferrera monologue, I not only felt that in my bones, and I feel your mothers, your daughters, your wives, sisters, everyone can attest to that. But, going back to the Greta Gerwig element, I think also the thread, it just reminded me so much of Florence Pugh's monologue in Little Women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, great point. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a great moment. And there were people cheering in the theater during that monologue.
I
it
cried.
hit every note. Yeah.
I did not expect to go into the Barbie movie crying.
I expect to cry in every movie, so it wasn't that much of a surprise. But yeah, I was choked up during that, and the end sequence when she's with Ruth.
So good with Real Perlman.
Finding out what life is like about and everything. It was
also applause for Real Perlman. Where's she been?
I know, it was awesome.
That was a cool reveal of the inventor of Barbie and all that. I liked when that came back around. The scene with the Kens mansplaining slanted and enchanted from pavement and Photoshop to that killed me too. I was like, oh, you got to get the lasso tool. Let me show you. It was a great bit. Man, Simu Liu in this was great too.
Oh my gosh.
It wasn't for Gosling, I'd be talking about him the most.
I did see that at the Canada premiere, they did hashtag Canada because they're both Canadian. And I thought that was so great.
What did you think of Alan, Sarah?
Gosh, I miss Michael Cera. I want some sort of revitalization there. Maybe he doesn't. It seems like he's pretty cool to just be like, that's fine, I can just hang out. That was so funny. He's the one that I'd be talking about if not for Gaz and Robbie.
He's the perfect person. Who else could you cast as that in that role? Maybe Zach Woods or Gabe from The Office. There's very few people. I think maybe Cousin Greg. There's very few people that bring that energy, and he is the master of it.
One of my friends posted a picture of her Alan doll from when she was a kid, and it is
same shirt.
The costume is
That's
spot
fantastic.
on.
Yeah,
it's
that shirt is awesome. That brings me to my next observation. Claudia, do you think this movie? We've already kind of seen it, the Barbie core stuff with Hot Pink becoming, the Lisa Frank style of stuff coming back. Do you think this movie's I think it's gonna have a real impact on fashion?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think we've already been seeing it. As soon as the trailer came out for this, I felt like I just started seeing a lot more pink. I know, even personally, I love wearing bright colors, and I feel it's kind of part of even though this is 60 years old, the 90s lexicon where neons and bright colors are coming back. And so, yeah, I mean, we're living in a Barbie world now, guys, and you're just going to be seeing a lot of pink.
I thought all of the costumes in Barbie Land itself were just great. All the different Barbie occupations, right? And all the different looks that they had were great. The Barbie mobile being a Chevrolet. It's basically a Chevy commercial in this. I mean, let's be honest. But it was funny how it had the old Chevy logo, but it had EV highlighted, and even on the Barbie mobile, because I guess they're trying to promote their
That's
EV
synergy.
vehicles. Yeah. Got to get that, that money where you can to pay for this thing. It's interesting that they said that the budget for this was 140, but the marketing budget was 150.
Yeah,
can't remember a movie that had more money spent on the marketing than on the movie itself. I mean, that's pretty pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was everywhere. It was everywhere.
Yeah.
Like I was on vacation last week and staying with some friends, and you know they see movies. But they're not as connected as we are. But she was like, I see the Barbie. She was borderline done with it. She was like, I need Barbie to chill out. Like I can't.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
It's like a constant. I mean, you know, it's like I'm I would see it on ads. You see it on like banners on website. Like Candy Crush changed all the purple squares or the pink whatever to
every brand trying to get
Barbie
in on the
symbol.
meme
I
of
mean, yeah,
Barbie
it was
Oppenheimer. This is my Barbie.
everywhere.
This is my Oppenheimer. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it worked. I'm not sure that that's totally replicable. Like that's part of the here's where I think Hollywood may get the lesson wrong. You know, I'm not sure that sort of shotgun approach of just blanketing everything in Barbie pink is gonna work for every movie. You know, so we'll see. But I think that I think it helped. I definitely think it helped the bottom line. It was market saturation. Everyone was very well aware of this movie, and it was unavoidable. And I think that worked out really well. I'm not sure it works for Hungry Hungry Hippos, the movie. You know, we'll see. But like, it's.
Well, the next one of these is apparently Saw Patrol. Saw and Paw Patrol are coming out the same day.
We get Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Meg 2 both are coming out. We just got to figure out a cute title for the two of those things. But Saw Patrol that's a funny one. That'll be fun.
Yeah, but is anyone going to go actually see Paw Patrol?
Yeah, that's the opposite.
That's
it's like I don't want to see either of those movies, and I'm dying to see both of those movies, so.
Yeah, and
But
both of
that's
those will probably be
because
bad.
it doesn't apply to us. You know, we don't think about. I always forget about the number of parents and children there are in this country.
No, but we know if both of those movies crush, we'll know that this memification of movies is like a real thing. Like if you can get your movie in a meme, your movie's going to crush, even if it's terrible. And if it's if anything's replicable, we'll see it with Saw Patrol, right? Yeah. So, gosh, this really hit all the notes for me. I just loved the soundtrack as well. I think that's gonna be a big player.
The Kin song was incredible, like that, and
that
is another.
That's gonna win best song. It has to.
Yeah, that's another area where it's like it makes it hard to. It's a real stretch to make this anti-male when arguably the moment of the movie is Kins and the Kins.
It's so great. I would have thought it would be Billie Eilish and Phineas, but then that song, and I was like, oh, this song, I think this one's it.
Too.
Yeah, it was an incredible. I mean, that's just, gosh, it was so funny, so good, so well done, and soundtrack's going to be a banger for sure.
The one thing the marketing team did do
there too,
that I thought was really smart. Claudia, did you see the architectural digest of the Malibu Barbie house?
I sure did, Kent.
I was going to say that was a genius idea. That's going to cross over on the general audience because those videos already do super well, and it's immensely shareable for anyone that had a Barbie dream house growing up, which is a lot of people.
I had the Barbie townhouse, and then I had like the A-frame dream house when I was growing up.
I don't know who threw this out there, but they said somebody reported that like the Barbie dream house still sells one every 25 seconds.
That's still incredible. Well, you know what's funny is that, through all this talk, and you guys have talked about it in your previous episode as well about the IP, and just obviously this is based on something that's existed for a long time. But, Mattel, I feel like the Barbie brand was struggling. It was on the struggle bus for a long time. And so I feel like, as much as the studio wanted this to be a hit, like they needed this to be a hit, and it paid off. Like their gamble paid off, and then
it's like gives them a chance to explain themselves because they got a lot of crap for inclusivity. We're doing this Barbie to represent this section of society. What are you doing? And it's like once you see this, you get it, right?
Yeah, and that, and also what exactly what the America Ferrera's teenage daughter's character talked about how no, you stand for everything that like feminism isn't, and for them to kind of like again be able to spin this and like rebrand the Barbie brand in a movie. I mean, Mattel gambled and wow, like, I mean, because this could have sank them if it didn't go their way and if it just tanked at the box office.
Yeah, it did do super well, but I will admit, I think it is a bit of a missed opportunity for younger girls because my sister's got 2 daughters, and the oldest one is almost 10, and she's got a younger sister that's like 7, right? And my sister was asking me like, should they see it? Is it appropriate? And I told her, here's where it kind of draws a line, and I don't know if she's taken them yet. So
yeah,
I
feel
only
like
pushback I would give it that is like, Batman 89 was PG-13, and we've sort of established that IP properties are going to get turned into movies that are geared at wider audience if it's possible for them to do that. And I thought this was actually a pretty. I'm with you, Kent. Like, this is not the Barbie movie that a 6-year-old girl, 5-year-old girl is going to want to go see. Most likely, it's definitely not what they're thinking when a 5-year-old girl hears that there's a Barbie movie. This is not what they are thinking of. I did think that I thought they kind of went out of their way to make it 90% clean, so that if you are bringing a kid or a young girl to the theater, if you want to be offended, anyone can be offended by anything. So whatever, that's just kind of our deal at this point as a society. But I thought that the movie went out of its way to not be offensive. If there is, like, hey, maybe this movie is not made for 5-year-old girls, but if there's a 5-year-old girl here in the audience because she loves Barbie, there's very little that's objectionable to a kid. Does that make sense?
There was a kid. The kid sitting next to me was like, it was a boy who was probably 5. The moment when the Barbie with the fake boobs came on and they inflated, he was like, what? He was like, couldn't believe what he was watching. He's like, looked at his grandma because it was like one of those, grandma's got the kids for the day, let's take them all to the movies.
But also, a 5-year-old doesn't know anything about boobs.
I know, but he's like, oh my god,
this movie to me, I felt like what you guys have said is absolutely correct, but also I felt like it's one of those movies that has the jokes for the adults and like has the pleasantries for the kids. Like, the kids aren't going to get these jokes. They're not going to be offended, like you said, Brian. Like, they don't get it, but like, they'll be entertained. There were kids in my movie theater too, and like, for the most part, like, one of them I think yelled out something like, "What's that?" But like,
sure, yeah.
There was no like, I want to leave or screaming or crying. Like, I think everyone in that movie theater was entertained.
I mean, the mic drop at the end where she goes, Barbie is in the real world and says, I'm here to see my gynecologist. Roll credits. I mean, just flawless. That's like kind of the perfect way to end it, right?
Yeah. It was great. Start to finish.
I cannot complain. So yeah, my favorite thing was the production design. Brian, what was your biggest takeaway? Gauze?
Yeah, look, Gauze is my favorite actor. So again, I want to be careful of being like, the best part of this movie about women empowerment is the guy, but I really loved the Gauze. I thought that character was written so perfectly, and he did it perfectly. He did it. Like I said, I think a lot of people were like, the guy from The Notebook is funny, and like, yeah, he is. He's incredible. So
he was in the Mickey Mouse Club, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
It was really surprising to me. I'll say it. I'm not a big movie snob guy. I'm a big movie nerd, obviously, but not big movie snob guy. And I rarely get surprised by the reaction of the general public on stuff. It was a little bit shocking to me how many people found out that the Gauze is who he is. So I was like,
you understand okay. After seeing
really
this
missed some stuff here. Yeah.
That you understand why this guy was almost in the Backstreet Boys in the 90s.
He's
right?
incredible.
Like, this guy can sing and dance and has the look. It's kind of the scene with him at the Dojo Casa house where Barbie comes back to kind of mend things with him. Mm-hmm. And he's like, sorry, I was just reading. That whole sequence was just a masterclass from him. It was so good.
Yeah.
The way he played that was so perfect.
Yeah,
Claudia, what was your favorite thing?
Oh boy. I mean, I think the nostalgia of it, just in general, I went into this movie with zero expectations. I had no idea what it was about, and I really have tried to approach going to the movie theater in general that way now. I don't seek out trailers, aside from one that I might see in a movie theater. For me, it was just the message overall of women's empowerment. I think just like how they hit on every note on, they aren't necessarily pushing feminism, but they're just like, hey guys, like it's complicated to be a woman. There's expectations, but limitations that are placed on us. And like, we just want you to understand. And I think that message came across to everyone, men, women, children, whomever. But I mean, Ryan Gosling was an absolute highlight for me. And the music. I mean, like I said, I think this movie overall, I had zero expectation, and it was just a flawless, 2 hours? Hour 50?
Under 2 hours.
Flew
oh my
by.
gosh. What a dream. What a dream.
Yeah.
Yes.
Greatness. All right, let's grade this one out. I'm going to grade it at an A+, because this is better than I could have ever expected a Barbie movie to be. Brian?
Yeah, it's an A+ for me too. This is, I mean, we're in the bag for Greta at this point, but even with high expectation and with, I think actually a pretty high degree of difficulty, this delivered more than I could have expected it to deliver. And to your point, Claudia, it's like, I think it's kind of a masterclass in making your point, making it well, and not making it preachy. I can agree. I agree with every single thing that is in every theme, every idea that is in this movie and in this script. But even when you are in 100% agreement, there can be a point where you're like, okay, like, can we just?
But is it a good movie? Right? Is it funny?
Right, exactly. And so, I mean, what's the movie? Trumbo. Trumbo's always the one that I bring up. I'm like, just because it's an important story doesn't mean that it's a good movie.
Yes,
And
exactly.
This was like, hey, here are some really important themes. We are not going to give away. We're not going to lose any of that. We're going to make sure that it all gets across. We're going to make sure that it gets across in a way that isn't preachy and that is actually incredibly entertaining at the same time. And I think that gives it more value and certainly more influence and significance. So I loved that. I loved all of this. I loved all of this. I thought it was a blast.
What would you grade it at, Claudia?
Well, I would be a fool to not agree with you guys. I mean, I think for all the reasons that I just said, I think this movie was absolutely an A+. And I say that knowing that I would want to see this movie again, maybe even in theaters, and definitely when it's on streaming or cable. And, just I want to at least end my thoughts with thank you to the podcast, to you both for allowing me to lend my voice here. I know that, I think that also speaks to you guys as just people and humans to be able to invite a female to talk about this movie. So, again, without sounding too preachy, I think it's very thoughtful of you guys. And I appreciate you and your audience for listening to me rant about this movie for however long we've been on.
That's so nice. You're the best.
Not Richard, though. He was not here for a reason.
That's right.
So we can all
Exactly.
agree.
One last thing I did want to ask you before we close this thing out. This is obviously going to have a sequel. Is there any way it could be better than this?
No, to the point that I know that this is how the industry works. I want Greta to make all the money and do whatever she wants. I would actually say, like, how about we don't do a sequel for a really long time? What if we just let it be? Because this is such a cool and well done, self-contained story, and like I said at the outset, I trust Greta to do whatever. So I'm sure she could come up with a way to make a really engaging, cool sequel. Just from an artistic standpoint, I would say let's let it be, because it would be almost impossible to top this, I think, within this world. But
I shout out to Noah and Greta for the Wes Anderson reference on the travel sequences too. I loved how those were.
yeah, Yeah,
those were done was really
fun.
was really fun too. All right, that's Barbie. This is Mad About Movies. Follow Claudia on X. Claudia _ Castillo, I believe, is it.
It's
So check her out there.
Yeah, Claudia IZET on the social.
Claudia IZET.
Yeah.
Claudia Izet. There you go. That's on Twitter. All right. We'll be out of here and talking Oppenheimer in the VIP. So join us then. We'll see you next time at the cinema. Goodbye.
Hey baby, I hear the blues are calling, tossed salads and scrambled eggs. And maybe I seem a bit confused. Yeah, maybe, but I got you pegged. But I don't know what to do with those tossed salads and scrambled eggs. They're calling again. Scrambled eggs all over my face.
They're making me yah-yah. Your salads and scrambled eggs.
They're calling again.